Hello and welcome back to my doctor's office. I heard you're suffering with symptoms of Byler Rant. Well, luckily for you, I have the perfect cure for this, so stay tuned and you will definitely feel better by the end of this video. This video kind of jumps all over the place, so I included little sections with timestamps just in case you wanted to watch a specific portion instead of watching the whole thing, but feel free to skip around if you want to. So in this video, I will just be discussing different topics that I noticed that prove to me that Byler is endgame, and we will be getting Byler by the end of season 5. So I kind of jump all over the place. It's very unorganized, very messy, but your Byler doubt will be cured. So let's get into it. One of my favorite Byler scenes is actually from the very first episode.
It was a 7. Huh? The wool. It was a 7. The Demogorgon. It got me. See you tomorrow.
In that episode, we are introduced to our main characters. We are introduced to the friend group. And from the beginning, we get a focus on Will and Mike's relationship. This is not unintentional. The Duffers knew what they were doing here when they were including these scenes between these two. They want to portray that there is a special bond between these two, and I want you to keep that in mind. And when you think about all the things in this show, it's important to know that the Duffers established that kind of relationship between those two characters on purpose. And I also want to bring you back to the actual theme of the show. This show was made for outcasts, misfits, anyone who felt like they didn't conform to normal society or whatever that normal is. It's for people who feel different from their friends, their peers, their community, whatever it may be. That is also something to keep in mind while watching this show. Even after Eleven is introduced in season 1, Mike especially still has his mindset on Will. He believes in his heart that Will is still alive, and he continues to look for him, even if he has this new friend. Even if he saw the dead body of Will, he believes that Will is still alive. And that ties back to the close bond they have. If they didn't have this bond, Mike could have easily given up, but he didn't, because this is his best friend we're talking about here. Mike and Will first made their relationship official at the Snowball, the end of season 2. And then from that point on, we see Mike being an absolute horrible person to his friends and to his girlfriend as well. He just sort of goes downhill from season 2, and I don't think that's a coincidence. I think he's stuck in this relationship. He is trying to conform to society by being in this straight relationship, and that is making him hard to be around. It's making it hard for him to interact with other people because he's focused on too many things at once. And he's also trying to be normal. He's trying to be straight. He's trying to fit in with a certain group of people that he doesn't actually fit in with. And we really see this not even just in Elle and Mike's relationship, but we see it also in the way he interacts with Will. He doesn't want to play D&D anymore. He wants to go hang out with girls. He wants to do more mature things than what Will wants to do. We see Mike express this annoyance at Will's attempt to stay in his younger years in season 3, episode 3, where they have their iconic Byler Rant fight directed by Sean Levy, who is actually a Byler-centric director. He directed such iconic Byler scenes. We'll get into that later though. We see Will and Mike get into this really heated argument, with Mike eventually saying the iconic line, "It's not my fault you don't like girls." And I think this is attempting to take a jab at Will's dignity, and he had this burst of anger, and he was really just grasping at straws to try and make Will feel bad, which is, I think, why he felt so bad later on. So after Will bikes away in the thunderstorm to his house, Mike follows him. He goes on his bike in the pouring rain halfway across town to Will's house, and he bangs on his door and he stands on his porch and he's trying to apologize. Whereas if we parallel that to the Eleven and Mike breakup later in the season, we do not see that. In fact, we see this look on his face that does not even look remorseful or upset. It looks kind of confused. He looks confused. He also looks confused at the very end of season 3 when 11 actually kisses him. He is standing there, eyes open the entire time, and when she walks away, he's just standing there baffled. I don't think that's a coincidence. Cut to season 4, and we see that Will and Mike have not seen each other for a very long time, and we can assume that they haven't really reached out to each other.
You called maybe a couple times. It's been a year, Mike. Meanwhile, Elle has like a book of letters from you. That's because she's my girlfriend, Will.
Will is talking about how Mike barely wrote to him, barely called, whereas 11 was receiving all these letters, which makes sense because she is his girlfriend. However, this season kind of revolves, talking about Mike's storyline, this season revolves around him not being able to say the word love. He can't express his love towards 11. I think that's a common thing in relationships. It's a big step, especially considering that 11 is Mike's first girlfriend as far as we know. But it clearly is a conflict that is going on in their relationship that they need to fix. The way he expresses his love to 11, it does not feel genuine to me. This happens shortly after the van scene. We have Will talk about the painting. We have Will confessing his love to Mike using Elle as a way to mask his feelings. Instead of saying his name, he says Elle. This ultimately gives Mike the confidence he needs to actually confess his love to 11. But we as the viewers know that Will was not talking about Elle in this situation. He was talking about himself. So Mike gained confidence from the things that Will was telling him, and that eventually led to him confessing his love to Elle. However, I want to point out that Will is behind Mike the whole time. And we also see this in a lot of other different instances. Will is always sort of lurking in the background here, and I think that is actually an intentional stylistic choice. The Duffers would not do this if it weren't to convey some sort of love triangle. They want you to think that there is a love triangle. And when Noah Schnapp established this, this confirms that we are setting up for either what could be a rejection or a queer relationship. So I just want you to think back to the show's themes: misfits, belonging, community, unity, acceptance. We have 2 queer characters in the show as well. So through all this buildup, all the way from season 1 to where we are singling out Mike and Will's relationship, all the way to season 4, the Duffers know what they're doing. They're trying to make us theorize. They're keeping us on the edge of our seats. They're trying to make us think, what's going to happen? What are they going to do? They are intentionally doing this. Now we move on to season 5. And I know for a fact that the Duffers have seen all the Byler theories. We are the loudest group, as they have said in interviews and questionnaires.
I mean, I've seen every ship with every character throughout. I mean, I think, Byler is probably one of the loudest groups that we have.
Which is definitely accurate, I think. So they know that people are theorizing about Byler. They know that there are people who think it will happen and people who think it won't. So my question is, why would they not call it off if it wasn't going to happen? They have built it up to a point where it is hard to ignore. Or at least when I am watching the show, it is hard for me to ignore the scenes between Mike and Will without taking it as not just a completely platonic way. Why would they make Will canonically gay and in love with Mike if it wasn't going to lead anywhere? Even if they wanted to give Will a different love interest, they would have had to do it way earlier in the season. We have knowledge that Mike is Will's love, basically. Will has been in love with Mike, we can assume, since at least season 2. All those scenes they have together, it really just establishes that if you go back and rewatch it, you can really pick up on the signs that Will is romantically attracted to Mike. And right from the beginning, going back to that one of the first scenes, we really see how their relationship is built on trust. Even if it seems silly, Will did tell Mike the role. He said that it was a 7. He told Mike that the Demogorgon got him even after the game had ended. He stayed back after everyone had left, and he told Mike the truth. even if it's just a silly game, they have established that their relationship is based on trust. It's based on truth. And I think that's ironic because later in the 4th season, we see him lie in order to keep his friend. First, he relied on telling the truth to keep his friend, and now he has to lie to keep his friend. And I think that's a really interesting way to design a relationship if it wasn't going to develop into something more than just platonic. Okay, going back to season 5, I got a little sidetracked. I can confidently say that I think that Mileven is not going to be Endgame. And this might just be my personal preference because I just love Eleven as a character so much, and I really do think that she is so much better off being single. She went and she started a relationship with one of the first people she saw outside of the laboratory that she had been kept in her whole life. This is like already starting off their relationship as unhealthy. And we see them have numerous fights, they break up, and then they get back together again. And overall, their relationship is just rocky. Even if we're putting Byler out of the picture, I would still want them to be separated by the end of the show because I think that that's when Eleven can really harness her full power as her own personal self. And then Mike can reflect on, his experience, his journey, and he doesn't have to take Elle into consideration in that way, if that makes any sense. It didn't, so here's a side note as I'm editing this video. Mike and Elle started a romantic relationship very quickly after Elle was found, and she started using her powers shortly after. But imagine how far she could go without the emotional weight of having a boyfriend, of having a crush, of having this relationship. Imagine how far she could go, how far she could take her powers without this. That's why I think she would be so much better off single by the end of the show, not to mention that the relationship has gotten increasingly more toxic as the show has gone on. And Michael was thrust into this whole thing so young while he was still looking for his friend Will. Imagine if he had more time to process this. I feel like they would both just be such stronger characters if they weren't together. So yeah, that's just my thought. Of course, this is definitely more opinion-based, but those are just my thoughts, yeah. Also, I want to talk about symbolism throughout this show. This is a super important part. There's countless videos on it that get more specific, so you should go check some out. But specifically in this season, we have a lot of different imagery that could suggest that Mike is gay and repressing feelings for Will. We have the broken rainbow puzzle in the hospital. We have his closet literally being broken through, and we have the water dripping on his face, the blue and yellow when his shovel hits the pipe. We have the pipe flooding scene where the water is spilling everywhere, and it happens to be Will and Mike trying to contain that water that is leaking out of the pipe. And I just think that the fact that it started as a drip and then ended up like spraying all over the place, that really ties back to Robin's speech when she said that the signals start as a snowball and then get bigger and turn into an avalanche. I think that really ties into the way that the water started small and then it ended up spraying all over the place. I just think that that's definitely intentional. And then we also had the Coke scene in the beginning of the season. We had Will's Coke can spilling open, which I also think is a reference to repressed feelings spilling out. And I think that kind of hinted to the viewers that he was going to explore his feelings for Mike a little more, and he did. He asked Robin about this relationship, and I just think that's interesting. And I don't think that was an accident. I think that that was done on purpose. I see so many anti-Bylers out there saying that Byler would be forced, so let's talk about that. I don't think that Byler would be forced. A lot of people say that Byler would be forced, but I think that Mileven would be forced. As I said, they've gone through so many relationship troubles. They really do not have a healthy relationship, and Mileven would be forced. If you kept that relationship going after they've broken up, they've gotten into so many arguments, it would just feel not genuine. Like, when I picture Mileven, like, after the characters have grown up, I cannot see it, like, genuinely. yeah, it's just hard to see a future with those two, to be honest. And even in the scene that they did have together in season 5, Eleven asked Mike about their future together, and Mike did not even really acknowledge Elle's question specifically. He talked about the entire group instead of just his and Elle's relationship, which has led some fans to actually theorize that they have already broken up, because also the sunset symbolism in the background could be meaning that their relationship is ending. That's what a sunset often signifies. There's so many videos on that. You should go totally check them out. Byler fans really do analyze everything, which I love about it. So yeah, definitely go explore that. Look into that theory. I think it's really interesting. And then finally, I want to talk about the cast's actual reaction to Byler after filming the show. I am not gonna lie, it is worrying that so many people from the cast are starting to come out and say that Byler is not realistic. Byler is not happening after filming. Now, of course, these actors have signed contracts they cannot spoil, and yet they do go out and say Byler isn't happening. We have David Harbour, we have Finn Wolfhard, and I don't know. I think it's a little sketchy that they are going out and saying this. I feel like the cast has kind of done misleading things before. I just wouldn't take what they say seriously. I just want to reassure anyone who's feeling worried about that I would not take that seriously. We had a Hopper come back. We've had actors discussing fake out deaths. We've had actors not being clear about whether they are going to return to the show or not. We've seen that with Joseph Quinn, the actor of Eddie.
Coming back next season.
$1 million question.
I do know, but I'm not telling you.
He was being very suspicious about that. He was not giving a definitive answer. So I'm just like I was alarmed at first too, but I just want to be so clear that I would not take that seriously. If they've signed contracts knowing they can't spoil, and the Duffers have acknowledged that Byler is such an important plot part, I just think it's suspicious that all of a sudden all the actors are going out and saying it's not gonna happen if it would actually not be happening. That is insanely suspicious to me, and that does not make me feel any Byler doubt at all. You can't trust these people. These people are sneaky. We've had fake leaks. We've had fake spoilers, and this is not trustworthy, guys. Trust me, okay? This is honestly, I don't know. I think this is really opinion based, honestly. You can believe what you want to, of course, but I personally think that it's a little suspicious that right now they're coming out and saying it's not going to happen when they could have done that seasons ago. Byler theories started right off the bat. People were assuming that there was something special going on between Mike and Will, and they could have discredited it at any time, but they're choosing after filming season 5 to start discrediting it. I don't think so. I think that Stranger Things is going to have a massive plot twist, and I think personally it's going to be Byler. We've had Millie Bobby Brown say in an interview that whatever you think is going to happen, it's going to be the opposite.
Whatever you think's going to happen,
Right.
it's the complete opposite somehow.
And I think that, dare I say, a majority of the general audience are Mileven fans. So for them to be able to pull off a queer romance between the two male close friends, established close friends, it would fit the theme. It would really impact the general audience. It would, tie into the core message of the show, and it would just be amazing writing. They've built it up for all these seasons, and for them to just stop is very weird. And as I always say, no one writes a slow burn rejection. That is not something you do. So why build this up? Why make Will canonically in love with Mike for nothing to happen? Hi, it's me again, leaving another little note as I'm editing this video. I realized I forgot to talk about Byler-centric director Sean Levy, so let's get into that for a little bit. So my boy Sean has got to be carrying the Byler fandom at this point. He's like the only one who's like gone out and dropped all these hints about Byler. I'll show you. Hi Sean Levy, we all know you're here, so pretty please give us an angsty, emotional, intense Byler scene like this again in season 5. This Will Byers was in love with this Mike Wheeler. Do you want to be friends? And don't get me started on his daughter's reposts. So yeah, I think that says a lot. Shout out to Sean and his amazing daughter for fueling my delusions. Anyway, as I was saying, even if Mike is just like, oh, chill, like, I don't like you back, that would still be more interesting for it to fizzle out. It wouldn't make any sense. Like, that, it just genuinely, and then what? He goes back to being in a toxic relationship with 11? I don't think so. I think something's going to happen, and it's going to be an insane twist, and it's going to piss off half the general audience, whether that be us or Milevens. I think that something is going to happen that is going to shock all of us. So those are my thoughts on Byler. That's just kind of like everything just like laid out on the table. Those are all my thoughts. I just wanted to get everything out there, everything I've ever thought of, everything I've overanalyzed in my head. And so I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to comment, like, subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And, you know, feel free to let me know if you'd like to see a specific video next. I will definitely be doing videos about Season 5, Volume 2. So stay tuned for that. I'm so excited. I can't wait to see it. And we will see what happens. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. Oh, and one more thing. You're cured. Bye.